Good evening, everyone. I'm calling the Bellefonte Borough Council July 20th, 2026 work session to order. Tonight we're going to look at the CIP, and Mr. Prabolk is going to lead us through this discussion.
All right. Thank you, President Johnson. Thank you, members of Borough Council, for your review of this draft plan that's in front of you this evening. I'm really happy to be able to present to you the inaugural capital improvement program for Bellefonte Borough. Just as a reminder, or as a note for anybody who is watching at home, a capital improvement program is a very useful planning tool to help Borough Council and staff be able to provide our high level of public services to the community, both in the short and medium and long-term horizons. So because this is the first year that Borough Council has asked staff to prepare a capital improvement program, I just want to start with some acknowledgments. First, I really want to express my appreciation to the leadership team here at Bellefonte Borough, department heads, deputy directors, as well as all the staff who had a hand in helping prepare these requests. It is the product of many hours of time and effort, developing requests, getting estimates, being critical in how we align our priorities with achieving your vision for Bellefonte Borough in the years ahead. I often like to talk about a capital improvement program in the context of what it isn't, more so than what it is, just so that everybody understands going into this review. While there are dollars and figures assigned to each of the capital expenditures, this is not an official action of Borough Council to authorize the expenditure of any money. That's done through the annual operating budget. As you all know, that is a yearly exercise that takes a very deep dive not only into revenue and operating needs, but also looking at capital expenditures, programming in what Borough Council believes is the top priorities, while also being mindful of the financial stability of the borough and making sure that we are good stewards of taxpayer resources. So while it's not an official authorization to spend any money, we do program requests based on the anticipated costs. For the purposes of capital planning, we've defined a capital expenditure as any single item that has a cost equal to or exceeding $2,500 and has an estimated useful life of at least 1 year. This is a bit of a moving target by community. It kind of depends on where you want to set your threshold for capital planning. You don't necessarily want to set it so low that everything, including staples and office supplies, fall under that category of a defined capital expenditure, but you don't want to set it so high that you miss out on planning well in advance for some large-scale purchases and equipment needs. So $2,500 is what we agreed to going into the development of this plan. That was a good, reasonable cap or floor, rather, on items to be included in the CIP. So this evening is the first of 2 work sessions that we've asked Council to provide comment and feedback on the draft plan. This evening we'll talk about requests from the Police Department, the Office of Community Affairs, and the Administration Departments. We'll also talk about staffing requests and a little bit of time spent on items not included in the CIP. Staffing is maybe one area of divergence from traditional capital planning. Staffing is not normally considered a capital need, but because I think it's recognized that staff is one of the largest cost centers, one of your largest investments as an elected official, new staff, not replacement staff, but new additions to the complement are included as CIP requests, again, just so you have some ability to look forward with some understanding of what those needs are in the 5-year horizon. So unless there's any, well, I should say that after the review on August 3rd and the work session, Council will be asked to adopt the CIP at that regular meeting. We'll incorporate any changes that you may like to see. And of course, if you need to defer that to the September meeting, that would be your prerogative to do as well. The Bellefonte Borough Authority is going to be asked to review and consider their components of the capital improvement program when they meet on August 4th. That's water and wastewater treatment as well. So again, I just want to thank staff, and I also want to thank Borough Council for your allowing us to go through this meaningful exercise, and we hope that we'll get some good feedback tonight. Unless there's any other questions on my introduction, we can move into the main event. Okay. So I've asked Chief Whitmer, who's here tonight, to have the pleasure of starting off the review for us. So really kind of skip the first sections of the CIP all the way down to page, and you can follow along on the screen, to page 9 of 15, where police requests start. So,
Dave, could I ask a general question about the whole overall CIP plan before we start?
of course.
The question is do these numbers that are included throughout the entire document, do they include an inflation factor?
Yes, they
each
do.
year?
Yeah, they do. To the best of our ability, we've padded in, we've built in cost increases with reasonable assumptions based on the program year that they're included in the CIP. So you'll see that even with Chief Whitmer's request, some of the vehicles, we've added an inflationary measure. They're leased vehicles, but anticipating cost increases in the years ahead.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, sir. If you want to just kind of touch on anything you want to.
Sure. Thank you. Good evening. As you see in the report here, I think the major items that I point out here, of course, is vehicles, and of course technology. When I speak of technology, I'm speaking about computers. Everything we do is on a computer nowadays. The officers really can't do their job out in the field without a computer. We do everything through CAD, which is through that's how we get our calls. That's how we issue citations. So technology is a big budget item that we have to keep up with and maintain so we can do our job on a daily basis. With the vehicles, I want to make sure we get in some type of rotation with the vehicles. We have vehicles that are very high in mileage. I think if we get in a rotation, we can also keep the maintenance costs down as well, which we have been able to do over the last couple of years, but I want to maintain that as well. Another item in here you'll see is replacing the carpet in our station. What I was told, it was last replaced 20 years ago. So you'll see a cost in here that ranges from, I believe, $17,000 to $30,000. We did a median cost on there. We don't know what it's really going to cost, but we tried to measure everything out the best we can, and then looked up a couple prices and the best we could. So that's an estimate. But other than that, those are my big budget items that we need to keep up with over the next 5 years for the police department.
Bill, are those carpets both upstairs and downstairs, or where?
Just up in our offices.
The upstairs, second
yes,
floor.
correct.
Okay.
I just had a question about the vests, and I'm not questioning having the vest, but every officer has a bulletproof vest, right?
Correct. They're required to have one.
And then this is just a rotating replacement of the vest. Do they have a lifespan?
5 years.
Okay.
So every 5 years we have to replace them. You'll see in here, I think, when it says $4,000, a vest ranges from $1,300 to $1,800 depending on the brand, the type, things like that. So it's 2 vests when you see $4,000. This is all based on our records. Everyone has a date that they were issued, and then they have to be replaced by. So we're we're also on a rotation to keep that going as well, so we don't have to replace, 10 all at once. That gets pricey. Right. We're also trying to get grant money to keep the cost down. There's a program out there where we can possibly cut the price in half. So again, these are estimates on the high end, but we're looking to get grant money to cut the price down.
Chief Whitmer, in 2028, you have a single line item for used detective vehicle for $15,000. Is that just a single purchase, a one-time cost?
Correct. So when we need a detective vehicle, we have one now. It's up to 130,000 miles. It's a 2012. We're maintaining that to keep it going until 2028. And usually what we would do with that is get a used vehicle that we can use for detective so they can respond out to crime scenes, to the hospital in the middle of the night, things like that. So that's a one-time payment.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Thank
on the
you.
high end. I don't know what it would cost, but that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, thank you.
So and maybe before we move on, one other point I omitted in my introduction was that the way that the CIPs are kind of laid out for you, as you may be able to, kind of determine on your own as we review, is that the things that are in the later years of the CIP, in this case 2030 and 2031, those are the real, kind of wish list items. They're things we know are coming. We're not entirely certain about when to program them in. They may go longer than 5 years. They may not, in other words, they may not need replacement in that 5th program year or 4th program year. But we want to keep them on council's horizon because we understand that they're big ticket items. So the direction I gave to department heads was, if there's a big ticket expenditure, if there's a large scale expenditure that you're not quite certain if we're going to need to make in the next 5 years, put it in that tail end, and this way you have some awareness as council members about what those what the future holds. The earlier years in the CIP, by contrast, are typically the items that we know are really in need of addressing. So whether you defer them or plug them in the budget in their program years, of course, going to be your decision to make, but we try to also align the requests in the CIP, not only based on what our estimated life cycle analysis is of some of the fixed assets we have, but also based on prioritization, the things that we know are going to need to be addressed in the near term. So just, something to keep in mind as we move through this.
Yeah. Well, Dave.
Yes, sir.
I was going to ask a question. Chief Whitmer, on the, what is your planned replacement rate for the vehicles? It sounds like you're planning, it looks as though you're planning on a 5-year life for the vehicle. So when we talk about one vehicle, what percentage of fleet is that?
I'll try to answer this the best I can. So right now we have 5 marked vehicles. I'm at the beginning, of course, when I took over this fleet, and we have a lot of vehicles that are of the same year and high mileage. So it's hard to say. 3 of our vehicles are already at 9 years old.
Okay.
So we keep them a long time, but it's based on mileage hours, basically the mileage and the hours that are put on the engine. So we typically keep vehicles, we'll probably at least up to 10 years. We try to. But what we have right now is getting to the end of their life. So I can't give you an exact, like how many years they'll go, but I just want to get on some type of rotation so we're not constantly fixing, because our maintenance budget is not very large.
Okay.
So I want to stay out of that as much as we can so we're not fixing vehicles all the time.
Okay. So, and when you're saying lease, will this be leasing a new vehicle or a previously used vehicle?
Well, I think we can only lease new vehicles, so
Well,
it'd be
okay.
new vehicles.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Another question related to what John just asked. On this thing, it says, for example, 2027, it says 2027 vehicle, one of a 5-year term, and then goes down. Next one, it says second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year. So if it's a 5-year lease, what happens to the vehicle after the 5 years? Do we get to keep it?
Yes, we leased them to buy, I believe is how it works. Because that's how we've done it the last couple vehicles.
Okay, that sounds good.
I'll also point out something that Mr. Brambulka spoke about. If you see down in 2031, you'll see computer server. We don't know the life of that, and it's a high ticket item, $25,000. I just remember a couple years ago, they usually give us a warning of when we're about 6 months to a year out when it's going to go bad. So it's in there, and obviously any of this equipment, if things are working at their 100% capability, they're not going to be replaced necessarily. So these are just things that I want to point out, like our in-car computers, we start getting them in 2023, so they're already 3 years old. The life of them is 5 to 7 years old, so that's why they're in there. I want to keep them in a rotation, but obviously if they're working perfectly, we're just not going to get rid of them and replace them.
I have a question as well, Chief, and this probably goes through everything, but if, with the 5-year plan, as I was being on fire company stuff, we talked about 10 or 20 years out, and with this, could you go like three years and then create a group or whatever to go through the next 2 years from 2030 to 31? So that way it gives you a chance to maybe recoup something else from something else. Does that make sense?
Well, I think maybe this addresses your question, Mr. Brackbill. I think we can, we'll do this 5-year plan as kind of a rolling process. So every year, council will be asked to review, reconsider, reapprove a new plan, even though those years will overlap. So of course this year we're doing 27 to 31, next year we'll do 28 to 32, and that allows for some reallocation of funding within the CIP horizon based on what the actual needs were, and deferred costs, when other priorities come up, they can get worked into. So that's part of the wisdom in having this done as sort of an annual exercise, in that it allows for a little flexibility there. Any other questions on police? So next up is the Office of Community Affairs. I will maybe bring this together in a more logical format. I just kind of put everything in one order. We go like police to wastewater, then we're going to go back to OCA. But anyway, this will be fine for now. So OCA, Gina Thompson, our planning, HARB, and miscellaneous other duties as the assigned coordinator.
Good evening, Council. My capital improvement program proposal is fairly straightforward. Mostly what I have requested here, similar to Chief, is some software and some programming and some overall comprehensive updates to zoning and planning. So for instance, you'll see a zoning ordinance amendment, looking at in the future creating an RPOS, which is a recreation parks and open space plan. That was something that was discussed during our review and update of the saldo, which we're in the middle of doing that currently. In addition to that, another conversation that came up was creating an official map. That is something that townships and municipalities often have to direct zoning and planning just for future possible land acquisition, but also just land resource and knowing what is available and what can be done with those parcels of land within your township. I don't have to go through every single one individually, but if you have questions about any of these, you'll see under each of the years going out to 2031 is the wayfinding signage implementation. And if you've been on council for a while, you'll recall that in 2020 and subsequent years, DBI had worked on and received a grant to design wayfinding signage for the borough. And that program was successful. The phase one was completed, I think, at the end of 2020. I know that at the time I was transitioning from, I was on council, I was transitioning from DBI over to the borough. And as a consequence of that is we have all of the planning and all of the design work done for wayfinding signage, but then the implementation piece to that kind of fell off with DBI's leadership change and then priorities changing at the borough. So I think if we can find some grant funding for the wayfinding signage, that would be something worth bringing back and exploring, especially since we already have all the design work complete. And actually Joanne may have some recollection of that as well, because I know that she was on the committee that worked on that.
She's correct. There is actually a grant program from DCED that will pay, I think, up to $50,000 for wayfinding. So we just need to plug into that. So these numbers may be basically maybe lower than that because of the local match needed, but the money is available. And because we started off with it, and we have HARB, and much of it is within the historic district as well as the outside to talking about what are things. I think we could actually reduce these numbers by a little bit, but by how much, I don't know. But there will still be some because of the local match issue.
I don't know, I have an idea of what wayfinding signs are, but could you clarify? Because I wasn't on council.
Sure. So typically, when you come into a town, and most notably you see it in small towns of boroughs, and particularly historic, although that's not a qualifier, but when you're coming into town, typically you see a sign that says, courthouse this way, municipal offices that way, park that way. So it helps identify some key markers within your town, but it also, when you get to those locations too, there would be signage as well. One of the things that was discussed with this particular project were the entry points to town. So you have coming in off of Water Street, and then you have coming in off of Zion Road, not Harrison Road, but Blanchard Street. Those are your main arteries. I guess you could come in, well, both ends of Water Street. So then looking at those points and creating ground monument signs too that would welcome. One of the other items, just as a side note, we have a couple of signs that say welcome to Victorian Bellefonte, but the Victorian era and style of architecture is actually not the only style and architecture in our town, and so it's kind of a misnomer that we're known as the Victorian Bellefonte when we have a wide range of architectural eras and styles in our town. So that was part of the upgrade with this, is kind of rebranding. And as you know, this brand that we have here was all part of that program. So the rebranding, the historic Bellefonte logo, all of that was to try and change the perception of Victorian Bellefonte to just historic Bellefonte. So.
There are 5 places in town where these welcome to historic Bellefonte signs are going to be. One of them is planned at Talleyrand Park. One of them is in front of the other armory out on Bishop Street. One is coming into town from Milesburg. One of them is a smaller sign, I believe, coming on Blanchard Street. And then there's one that is actually, we have to get an agreement with both PennDOT and Spring Township, because it's coming in off 144 around that curve coming up to Pine Street. The only place that it can be put is next to the cliff, just as before you turn the corner. And so we have to get, and that's in the PennDOT right-of-way, but it's also in Spring Township, about 50 feet before you hit the Bellefonte Borough. Everything else, though, is within the borough, and there would be, in addition to the kinds of signs Gina was talking about, there are also, a lot of people don't understand what the brown road signs are, which are the designation of the historic district. They're little icons that'll be placed on top of them that say historic district, so that when people see them, they know that they're in a historic district here in town. And all of that has been designed, the materials are all there, it's just a matter of implementing it now.
President Johnson, the official map, that sounds like a GIS effort.
It would be a great GIS effort. Yes.
Okay, I mean, are you saying that you're suggesting not doing it in paper and not in GIS today, or? Because who's gonna be our GIS person?
Yes, so that is why some of these prices are what they are, because we would have to hire outside firms in order to help us develop these different planning tools, including the official map. Do you mean once we have the official map, who would be our GIS person to use it? Because that's...
Well, the person who would be inputting it, maintaining it, and then using it. I think we're talking the same thing. If you say you're going to do a new map, then you need to have a GIS person on staff.
Not necessarily. I mean, the borough works closely right now with the county GIS. So oftentimes, if I am looking at our current zoning map, we have layers on the county GIS for Bellefonte Borough. I've worked closely with the GIS staff to say, hey, are you able to do this layer update? And over the years that I've worked with the borough, I've had different layer components added to the county GIS. So I don't have an answer for you completely. I don't know if Mr. Probulka might also be able to offer some insight, but I think that we could certainly lean on resources that we have available, and also that the proposed cost would factor in getting the GIS expertise that we would need for that official map.
I mean, if you're able to get that out of the county, then good on you and great. And I mean, thank you for saving us some money.
I will always try.
Yeah, and the official map, as well as the RPOS plan, I mean, we're not required to have them. Maybe the RPOS plan has some implications for land development and what we, expect to see and review from applicants for development. Being a relatively built environment, thankfully that hasn't been a major concern, but it is a good planning tool to have. The official map has standing in the municipality's planning code. It's optional for municipalities to adopt. It largely pertains to your transportation network and your public improvements like parks and other, amenities that the public might want to make use of. And it gives standing to the municipality over the parcels that are identified on an official map if they are subject to land development. So in other words, if I have a piece of land and it's shown on the official map as a municipal park, and I submit a development plan to Bellefonte Borough to put a use on it, whatever it might be, the borough can say, no, we have this on our official map, you need to give us a year to acquire this parcel from you. And you can do that through any number of tools that are at your disposal, but it buys you time. So it's not necessarily something that I think Gina nor I are saying we have to do. As Gina pointed out, the appropriation in the CIP is for a consultant to help draft the map, do the GIS work, lead the public engagement sessions, and work with council on the development of the plan. But the reason it's in that tailing year is because there's a lot, I think, to do that may be a higher priority, and you know, whether council would like to pursue that or not remains to be decided. The zoning ordinance is probably and again, that's programmed into 2029, so that's not even in an earlier year. But as is very often the case for other municipalities in Pennsylvania and elsewhere, the zoning ordinance has been amended in kind of a piecemeal fashion over the years. You know, we change things to adapt to new uses, we change things to allow or prohibit uses that we want to see or don't want to see. It's useful, you know, every once in a great while to have somebody look at it through a comprehensive lens, make sure that things aren't conflicting with one another, make sure that we're complying with our expectations under our intermunicipal comprehensive plan, and our municipality's planning code. So, you know, it's another item that's not an immediate need, but it in our assessment is more of a priority than some of the other planning documents, and that's why we have that in an earlier year. Any other questions on OCA?
Last Thursday, Gina and I went to the Nittany Valley Joint Planning Commission meeting, and then we talked about the sidewalk inventory. At the end of it, Gina asked for a copy because Bellefonte was used as the pilot project. Ann Meisner from the CCMPO said that it could be given in two ways. One was by PDF, and the other one was by GIS. She asked Gina, and I don't, what kind of GIS software we had, and I believe Gina said we didn't have what she was talking about. And so my question is there some way when we're doing this comprehensive that we could match our system, whether it's so that we could get those kinds of information when the CCMPO or other transit programs come together so that we can actually use it? Because right now, as I understood from that conversation listening, was that what the county has won't be able to give us all of that information from that particular survey.
So I'm going to talk a little inside baseball with Gina. You can add a shape file to the ARC viewing license that we have through the county, right? With Webbia, you can add a shape file into that. Yeah, we can take that file format that was done in GIS, and we should be able to visually display it. We can't alter those layers of GIS data sets. So we'll just be able to kind of adapt it into a format that we can view and make use of. But when it comes to drilling into those data points and making adjustments and things like that, you would need a license for that software that we don't have. But as Gina said, we have a good working relationship with county planning and GIS, so we could use them to help with some of the data entry and manipulation if needed.
So even though the county and Seneca use GIS,
Yeah, there's one name in the GIS game, and everybody uses the same. It's Esri. Everybody uses the same. So the nice part about that is that all the systems can integrate fairly seamlessly. Yeah. Yeah, that should not be an issue. Yeah. Other questions on community affairs and historic preservation?
Lost my handwriting. Back to the wayfinding, regarding the welcome signs, I had overheard last week that there was some possible fundraising for the welcome sign on Bishop Street plan. Is this in the near future? Is this part of the CIP, or was that taken into account?
Well, we haven't really aligned CIP requests with potential funding sources. Gina did put in hers kind of a footnotes column where she identified some potential grant opportunities. But what you're referring to, if there's money that's been raised to reconstruct the Bishop Street welcome sign, that would be a part of this wayfinding effort.
So another way to reduce the cost.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And there's a lot of that's in here. There's a lot of potential grants that could apply to those different expense categories in really all of our departments. We have not worked those in. I think this is, maybe another point I should have made out of the gate is that as we go through iterations of the capital program in the years ahead, we'll try to make it more useful, aligning those funding opportunities with requests, figuring out how to, maybe more graphically represent some of these items and these expense categories and other things that we can do to improve it. So if you have ideas, it's meant to be a work, kind of a work in progress. And then we can build on them in future years. General administration, we have Alyssa, do you want to take this one?
All right, the first item under 2027 is the website redesign upgrade. First off, our website is at end of life. It's about 10 years old, so we do need to do some things for the website. I have met with 3 different companies looking at the website redesign. There is also ADA compliance components that we need to meet for a deadline that is in 2028, it's April of 2028, to be in compliance. So therefore, we need to start looking at our options, and it usually takes about a year to actually have that website up and running on the back end and live for everyone's viewing. So that is something that we definitely need to dive into in 2027. And then we have the main server replacement. Our IT company that we use contacted us to let us know that one of our servers will need to be replaced, that it will no longer be supported in 2027. It is a larger cost, but it is something that needs to be done because it hosts our applications for our administrative office.
So on that, and this gets to a question Mr. Eaton had earlier, there are life cycles for servers. They're typically 5 to 7 years. I believe our main server has gone longer than that, or is closer to the 7-year life cycle. The other driving, piece of when to replace a server is the support and the licensing of the main box, the hardware itself. So because this particular server, the operating system that it's running on is no longer going to be supported starting next year, there's a security problem that could be introduced because we won't get patches, we won't get enhancements, we won't get, any kind of troubleshooting if we happen to have an issue. So we are hoping to replace that perhaps even this year because of the way the support is expiring on our existing server. But if we can get it into 2027 and get it done early next year, we should be in pretty good shape.
Dave, this would be similar to the Windows 10 versus Windows 11. So
Correct. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's and the positive side to server replacements is that because of how sophisticated a lot of they have gotten over the years, you can run different applications off of one server. It used to be you had one server for Microsoft Windows, you had one server for your planning software, you had one server for your accounting software. These boxes allow you to run several what are called virtual machines off of one primary server. We're kind of going back to the mainframe era of computing technology, where technology comes full circle.
Alyssa, so this price is pretty accurate since it,
Yes.
okay,
Yes,
since it's going to be
what
very
was
soon?
estimated from our IT company.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. In 28, you're listing enterprise resource planning software. Will that also tie into accounting software?
Yes, that the plan is to evaluate next year, implement 2028, a software solution that could, really do everything that we need. Finance and accounting, human resource management, utility billing, planning and, permitting and code enforcement. And that number is a little bit of a guess. But it's a conservative guess. It should be less than that. There are many solutions out there that are scalable for the size of Bellefonte Borough and for what our needs would be, that are affordable and a lower cost option. A lot of them are you spend an initial cost to acquire the software and implement it. Implementation is usually a months-long process that involves data migration and building processes, and usually there's a lot associated with that, which is why that initial cost is typically higher. But then the way these license models have all gone to, or a majority of them have gone to, it's a subscription-based license, so you're paying every year based on the number of users that you have, and that gives you access to the whole kingdom. So it's there's a lot of unknowns at this point. We don't think that we're going to be in a position to do anything in 2027 except to, ultimately issue a request for quotes and be able to go through an evaluatory process to be able to implement in 2028. So we don't anticipate any cost incurred until 2028 at the earliest. A lot of our systems right now, so last thing I'll say, are siloed. There's double data entry, which introduces potential for error. There's limitations with how we can export data and report to council and to the public and to others in a meaningful way. Having one system that sort of governs all of our operations here or supports all of our operations here, I think would do a lot to improve transparency, usefulness for council and some of the data we provide, but also streamline some of our business processes and hopefully get away from some of our paper costs, because we can digitize a lot of those things now.
Yeah. And you seem to be describing similar to the Workday product, which the university rebranded as WorkLion. So our employees will basically be able to go in, see what their vacation balances are, what their benefits are, and they can also enter their timesheets, right?
That would be one function that we would look for in this ERP, would be an employee timekeeping, benefits management, kind of system where there's a workflow component to a lot of these systems. Things can get routed digitally to their different approval processes. Purchase orders is another good example of that. So yeah, we would hope that it would cover all of that.
Okay. Yep. Sounds good.
So that's general administration. Any other questions?
There's 3 more years in it.
There are 3 more years. We're happy to add things if you'd like, but this was all we wanted. This is all we could identify in the.
That's a whole new accounting system, Joanne.
That's right.
That is a biggie.
Yeah, that is excellent.
So the appendices, we'll start on page 14. There's just 2 of them. Really, your first appendix is staffing requests. Again, just to reiterate, this is new staffing only. We do have retiring police officers and public works employees that we anticipate in the next 5 years that are not represented, whose replacements are not represented here. But again, addition to complements would be captured here. So starting in 2027, had some conversations about transitioning the community development and HARB coordinator to a full-time position. That cost is, a lot of the salary estimates need to be refined as we get into budgeting itself, but what we used as our guidance was the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs does an annual salary survey, so they have data from 2025. We look at similarly situated boroughs. In our case, it's boroughs with populations of 4,000 to 8,000, and they, we try to align our positions with the median salary for those data points. So there is some guesswork, but there's also some education or some input that we received, some significant data points that we were able to use to guide some of our requests. So the movement of the part-time to full-time, what that salary and benefits and all represents is the total cost. It's not just the delta between the part-time and full-time position. But just once again, it's going to be dependent on when we identify the need, when we program it, and of course the candidate that we recruit in those positions. Also, 1 year ahead is a parks position. This is a new full-time position proposed, not for next year, but for the following year. I do believe that our current maintenance staff, which is entirely composed of part-time seasonal workers, is probably not sustainable for the long term. We're down right now one person in that complement. Thankfully, we've been able to supplement that with another part-time position, but we're just not getting as much interest in part-time vacancies. We'll still want the part-time seasonal work, but a full-time position would give us some ability to do some work in the parks off-season, and also to be able to plan for more improvements, landscaping and maintenance related in our park system. So I'll see if you have any questions. I haven't developed a job description. It's well out there, and we've got time to look at all of that, but I thought it was important to get it on your radar. Going to 2020.
What do you think that'll take the parks budget to in terms of total?
Well, right now our parks total is, oh geez, let me see if I can call it up quickly here. In our parks fund, our total expenditures for 2026 budgeted at 150,000, 25,000 of which are capital. So say operating at 125, you'd be looking at about 180, somewhere in that. Well, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at salary. I'm not looking at benefits. Could just go right over here. So you'd add say 115,000 onto 125, so 240,000. Now this position can also be shared with streets. So if in the time when they wouldn't be doing parks work, they could help support Matt and his operation, maybe defer a staff position or get something done that we would otherwise contract out. But that would be the impact on the parks budget. Police looking to add either a part-time, full-time to the complement in 2029. Those numbers have been, I believe, adjusted based on the contract terms and extrapolating what those wages might look like in future years. That would be our 12th or 13th? Is that 12?
Be our 11th,
Oh, 11? Okay.
yeah.
11th officer. And then there's a tailing item for some support for the Office of Community Affairs as a part-time position. Again, wish list 2031, far out there. A lot of what I think drives, well, there's a lot that might drive that discussion in the years ahead. What is, the relationship with the borough and DBI or the Bellefonte Chamber, as they sort of reconstitute themselves. They've got staffing positions, possible that this might be a shared position, partly funded by both agencies. The other unknowns are what the development activity and redevelopment activity will look like in the borough as we see the waterfront project come to fruition, some of these other developments that may serve as anchors to bring more interest in. So we wanted to include it, but as a very tail end item, just understanding that depending on how development activity goes in the borough, there may be no need for this position, or it might be justified in those later years, and we'll have to just keep an eye out for workload and do the best we can. Assumptions of benefits, pensions, employment, all that stuff, I've tabulated that later on in that next table, just to give you a little method to my madness. Most of those numbers are reasonably well known. Of course, healthcare, we assumed family plan, to be the most conservative in our estimating. Anything else on staff? I can wrap up and.
I'd have a question about the breakdown of the health family plan. You've got 3 new full-time employees, and the spread is $5,000 difference in each one. Without knowing who these employees are or what their needs are, how do you come up with that kind of a spread?
Well, yeah, we assumed family plan, and then the spread is more attributable to the year that you see that programmed into the CIP. So we baked in healthcare increases, and what you're seeing represented in this document is just our cost. It's not the employee share of the healthcare.
Right.
So, I did some guesswork a little bit. I think I used a factor of 11%, 11 or 12%, I'll have to look back, for healthcare increases for that duration.
Okay, and I was wondering about the Public Works employee whose base salary is 55, but their benefits are 60. That's a little lopsided.
Not uncommon, but yes.
That benefits would be greater than the salary?
Primarily because of healthcare.
Okay.
I mean, that's a big driver in that. That's your static number. The pension and the taxes withheld are all functions of the salary, but your healthcare is going to be a fixed cost. So for employees whose annual salary is equal or less than the cost of a family plan premium for a full year, which unfortunately is more often the case than it was even just a few years ago, that's where you'll see that anomaly there.
Which page are you looking at? I'm
Page 14, the breakdown of benefits and taxes, assumption and detail.
Yeah, so you'll see base salary for the Public Works Parks Maintenance Supervisors, 55,000. Now that is a number, it was not a job that was analyzed in the PSAB data, so I used a Public Works laborer, basically. It's possible that depending on the skills and expertise and expectations of that position, that could drive that salary in one direction or the other.
Dave, you might want to look at state colleges, because they do have a parks supervisor. Although I suspect it'll be a little bit less, but.
Yeah, their positions in the center region tend to be a little bit higher than what we might be able to justify here in Bellefonte. Items not included, I'll leave that to you unless you want to cover that later. I know we're sort of up against the time. these are things that are big expenses, not capital in nature. Maybe they didn't tip the scale or the threshold for capital item, but I did put in here the backfilling of an existing position for the police. You know, just again, so it's understood there. A lot of police items in here, contract bonuses. The parking system is really the only number that we could not do any justice to with an estimate. I mean, we do have estimates, but depending on when you go, the direction you go, how, you know, but suffice it to say for now that we do and are starting to look at replacing some of the hardware that's at the end of its useful life. And while we're looking at that, it's prudent for us to look at the whole system and see if there's a way we can achieve an economy of scale, reduce the number of vendors we work with, and maybe provide an ease of doing business for our residents and visitors. And we can also revisit that on next time if you want to talk more about it. I know we're at the end of the day.
No, I'm just writing some notes.
Thank you, David. I think we're going to have to move on here. It is 7:30, so very well presented.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, you are? Oh, yes, sir. Oh, you're doing the readers as you drive in, and they automated, paid by the, yeah.
2026 on Monday, July 20th. First of all, I'd like to have the Pledge of Allegiance. Deb, could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Brackbill? Here. You sure?
Okay.
Ms. Clayton? Here. Ms. Dan?
Here.
Mr. Eaton? Here. Mr. Johnson?
Present.
Ms. McKean?
Here.
Mr. Kelly? Ms. Tosti-Vasey?
I'm here.
Ms. Wilson?
Present.
And Mayor Johnson is excused.
I need to make the announcement. In the absence of the mayor, President of Council takes those responsibilities. Therefore, I will not be voting tonight on any motions. Additions to the council meeting agenda under Act 65, 2021. If a matter is not on the agenda, Council June, what's that? Not take official action on it with the following exceptions. Council can act on matters relating to potential or real emergencies. Council may add a matter of agency business to its agenda through a majority vote. Council must state why the action item is being added to the agenda. Is there any items that a council member would like to add to the agenda tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on. Public comment. Borough Council intends to take public comment related to motion that is on the floor after it has been duly made and seconded. The order of comments will be public comment and then council comment, including proposed amendments by council members. If amendments are proposed to the original motion, the public will then only comment on the amendments before the final votes are taken. You must be a Bellefonte resident, a nonprofit representative, a business owner, or an official representative of another governmental agency. Speakers shall identify themselves by name and street, municipality, if outside of Bellefonte Borough, and the comments are limited to 3 minutes. So we're going to move on now to communications, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Popolka for those announcements.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are 2 communications in your packet. They are both informational only. The first is a reminder that Bellefonte's EMS 8th Annual Joint Meeting invitation is for 7 p.m. on Wednesday, July 29th. Meeting will be held at Bellefonte EMS at 369 Phoenix Avenue. Please RSVP to Scott Rote by the end of the day on Monday, July 27th. Next, a just reminder to any interested parties that council is currently accepting letters of interest and resumes for those that may be interested in filling the vacant South Ward council seat. Residents who may be interested should submit their letters and resumes to Alyssa Doherty no later than July 30th at 4:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Popolka. Moving on to special presentation. This is a recognition of Mr. Brackbill. Representative Benninghoff is here, and I will turn the microphone over to Mr. Benninghoff. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. President. To all the members, thank you for your service. It's really nice to be in the chamber. I did want to take a moment as a local representative, Gary Benninghoff. Just want to make sure you're really listening to me. Sorry about that. Anyhow, compliments to you for the beautiful chambers here and for serving as council members. I thought it was only appropriate to honor one of our own, as Randy will be moving on to some more fun in his life. I want to personally come not only as your state representative, but as your friend. We have a small citation on behalf of the General Assembly to say thank you for your 14 years of service. I don't know if you want to come up to there or you want me to come to you. But make it quick, I only have 3 minutes. Congratulations, my friend. In addition to that, we have a state flag that was actually flown over your state capitol.
Yeah, great.
So don't forget where your roots are. This is a citation and flag that has been dedicated to many years of service, I believe 14. I want to make sure you knew that too. 14 and a half. Make sure the retirement council has that. Of your many years of dedicated service to the Bellefonte Borough, its people. Again, this flag was flown over the state capitol Tuesday, June 2nd at 100 hours. Citation by myself and also one on behalf of the governor. And for those who don't know, the Pennsylvania state flag is a pretty gorgeous flag, being one of the best states in the union. I figured if you were leaving our state, I wanted to make sure you didn't forget us. So there you have it. You can fly that very proudly. Pennsylvania goes on top of the pole after the United States flag. You put everything else under there you want. And last but not least, there's a commissioned ornament for the America 250 celebration for Pennsylvania. So at Christmas time, I thought it'd be kind of fun. If you're not flying your flag, you can put this on the tree. Remember our friends and people of Pennsylvania.
Remember, we're going to be in Myrtle Beach, so don't worry about that.
That's all right. I still want you to put this on the tree, and don't forget to send your tax bill before the end of December to Pennsylvania.
All right, buddy.
God bless you and Kathy. We're really grateful for her service and yours to our community. We're very, very honored for all that you've done. To the council, thank you very much on behalf. You want to get one photo here? Thank you. I really appreciate it. We're very honored. Appreciate
Okay,
you.
time has expired.
Randy?
Randy? Thank you, Carrie, very
Thank you.
much. Randy, don't go too far. Get back up to the podium. So again, this is like Christmas Eve for you, but 14 and a half years. Now, is that only on council, or does that include planning session?
I think, well, we'll probably all that, isn't it?
I thought planning was a little longer than that. So anyhow, Randy and I started out together on the planning commission. Randy moved on to the borough council, and I followed his footprints. He's been a mentor to me, and like I've said before, Randy, we didn't always agree on things. But most of the time we did, and we always resolved those issues that we had. So I wanted to invite every council member up here with me, because this is, so come on, get out of your seats, get up here with me, because this is a council presentation. I just happen to be in the president's seat tonight. So I want to thank Randy for his service here for 14 and a half years. Everybody stands over here. We can all get in the picture.
Are we getting a picture with the podium in?
And each member, if they want to take a second, come up and thank you. That's up to them. But me personally, I want to thank you, and I wish you the best of luck. I want your address at Myrtle Beach. You never know when we might need a place to stay. So on behalf of this Borough Council and the Borough Administration, in grateful recognition of your 14 years of dedicated service to the residents of Bellefonte Borough, your leadership, your commitment, and dedication strengthening our community have made a lasting impact and will be remembered with gratitude. This is the Bellefonte Borough Council presenting you with this award, Randy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to get a picture.
Yeah, we should
Sure,
do it up there.
sure.
I'm just gonna stay here. Yeah, I'm gonna hold down this side of the room here.
You have a couple words you want to say here? Your travel box. I'm going to go sit down. All right.
I didn't know this was going to happen this way today, but I do appreciate Carrie, who had to leave. And I'm a little disappointed because somebody was supposed to bring my dog down. Where was he? So anyway, I want to thank Doug Johnson and Carrie. They're two good guys. I thank you for your kind words. And after being involved since 2014 and a half, things have changed fast. And Kathy and I found that our daughter Lindsay wanted us to be with them, and this will be over her retirement. And council members, I thank you for working together and do what is right for the West, for the North and the South residents. And I feel that good comes from what happens, what we do through our lifetimes. So that's my thing. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Randy. Maybe you'll get involved down south in some capacity. Try to stay active. Thank you, Council, for participating in that presentation. So we'll move on now to the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be acted upon by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member or members of council request a specific item to be removed for a separate action. So I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Thank you, Mr. Eaton. Thank you, Randy. Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda being approved, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I can't vote, sorry. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that carried unanimously. Moves us down to item 9, reports. Elected officials, the mayor is absent. Chief, we have your report in the packet tonight. Is there any questions for the chief? Any comments, Chief?
Yeah, good evening. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review my report. June is one of our busiest months for the police department. We had Children's Fair, Pizza with the Police, and of course the Bellefonte cruise. Everything went well. I do want to make one announcement coming up here at the beginning of August. We have our National Night Out. So I hope to see you all down there. What National Night Out is, it's an annual nationwide community building campaign to promote police and community. We did our first one last year. It was quite successful, and I hope to see a lot more people there this year. Come down, have some food, play some games, bring the kids. It's a great time to interact with us and get to know us a little better. So hopefully everyone can come.
Thank you, Chief. We having hot dogs again, or no?
I haven't seen the menu yet.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Any other questions for the Chief? Okay, we'll move on. We'll go to, let's see, Gina, do you want to?
Good evening, Council. I just wanted to mention, because it's not on the agenda specifically, although it is in my report, that there is a HARB meeting this coming Tuesday, July 28th at 8:30 a.m. And it will, sometimes we're in here, sometimes we're over in Oak Room. We will likely be in here because we have quite a few applications on the agenda. And then otherwise, my report highlighted some planning updates and gave you an update from the CCMPO meeting that was last week, which was also presented then again at our Nittany Valley Joint Planning Commission meeting last Thursday, July 16th. And if you have any questions about those, you can let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for Gina? Okay, Mr. Perbolka has a borough manager report. Is there any questions or comments?
I can answer any questions you might have. My report's in your packet.
It's your lucky night. We're moving on. Committee reports are enclosed. Any questions for any committee members? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple questions on the authority from the minutes from the June 2nd, I believe it was. Yes, from the June 2nd meeting. I know there's been some struggles with some financial struggles there. It seems, I've seen this before, and I would like to have some narrative on this. It's $297,000 loss in the first third of the year. Does that have to do with Niagara being 2 months behind on payments, or is it more than that?
Could you specify, you're talking about the water fund? Or the
Yes,
water
yes.
Budget to actual?
No, I'm just referring to the minutes, yes. So there's not to be a whole lot of information on there, but I was asking about that. And maybe you don't have an answer for that right now, and that's okay too.
I could research it a little bit further.
Okay.
It might be partly due to a delay in receivables from our bulk water customers. It might also be just how the data entry is made
It's falling.
from our
Okay,
utility
okay.
billing in general.
Okay, thank you very much.
Use the mic, John. Use the microphone, please.
Barbara, are you referring to the conversation that Joe Falcone in the financial report was giving?
This was under Mr. Falcone's financial report.
Yes. Due to the phasing of our receipts and our expenses, Joe is trying to explain that on a monthly basis, there is, on occasion, large imbalances. And it's because of the fact that we bill quarterly.
Okay.
Okay. And we have some other bills that with some customers, they take their 90 days to make the payment. So in the ongoing discussion that we've had is how do we make much as we're having in the Finance Committee, is how do we make these periodic reports more valuable such that we don't end up with imbalances that may appear to indicate that we have a deficit.
Okay.
Or may imply that we have a surplus. So bear with us as we go through this process. We're trying to make the financial reporting more coherent so that we actually avoid these momentary gaps that appear to be either a deficit or a surplus.
Okay.
So, and we encourage when Dave put the ERP funding in for the new accounting software and all that stuff, it's all part of the plan to make this more coherent to us because, yes, we've struggled.
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying that. A couple other questions. The Big Spring enhancements and the Big Spring cover were mentioned in this. I don't see very much on that, and I'm sure our residents and maybe the rest of the council is interested in where that stands, that whole project stands right now, if you could help us out.
I don't know.
Thank you.
I don't know. No. We just awarded the contract for the new cover at our last meeting.
that.
Those meeting minutes have not been approved, so they're not public yet. We did meet with Weber Murphy Fox, the landscapers. We made some adjustments in the conception of what that landscaping may be. They will be coming back the meeting in August, with a representation of the landscaping.
Okay.
We have until the end of 2027 to spend the money that we have, the grant that we've been funded. Now, if there is any money left over from the landscaping and the cover project, that probably will be directed to refurbishing our Corning water tank, which is in desperate need of rehabilitation. Along with that, we haven't selected a color yet for the cover. It's going to be talked about. What am I missing, David or John, in regards of bringing the public up to date?
I would just say, come to the next authority meeting. That because it is a process at the moment. We want to do the color selection and then the surrounding features. So it's going to be near term within the next couple of meetings. Would you not say, Doug?
I think the authority was all in agreement. If I'm off on this, let me know, Dave. Once we have a conceptual design of the landscaping and the color of the fabric of the cover, we would be publicly presenting that.
Yeah.
So this is a work in progress. We have nudged the engineering company several times to get this moving for us, and I think they finally got the message. So that's where we're at this time.
Great, thank you. Those are
We are also hoping that one of our vendors may make a contribution to help support the cost of the cover. And the cover cost, I think, is $235. Yeah. Which is a lot more than we expected. We were thinking the ballpark of maybe $150,000. So it came in. This cover is different. It's actually a floating cover that will go up and down with the rise and fall of the water level in the spring. It will be supported underneath with some wires, which the original cover was not the cover that's on it now, but the one before this one. And what's the guarantee? Was it 30 or 50 years or something? Do you recall?
I don't believe it was out that far.
25, something
That
like that?
was in 2025.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's where we are.
great. Thank you for that update. I'm sure everyone appreciates it. That's all.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, this is actually related to what Barb just said. At the Parks and Rec Committee meeting in June, we noted that the former entrance to the Big Spring closure, when you're looking at the house to the right, there's...
I read your report, yes. The
I-
gate, the original gateway to the
Right.
spring.
It doesn't appear to be being used. We were wondering if you could consider fixing or doing something. that-
Absolutely. It's a
And-
great suggestion.
And the other one was that, this wasn't in the report, the Water Authority previously mentioned redesigning the area surrounding the spring and had previously proposed adding water play features fed by the spring in the Talleyrand Park.
Not happening.
Okay, that's what we wanted to know.
Yeah.
I had a question, and I can't find it in the report, but it had to do with What does the traffic signal at Parkview Boulevard have to do with bulk water? I mean, there was some statement.
Bulk water paid for that project.
Okay, so, but it's not necessarily related, it just water,
No, that it's sort of a,
a
we're
transfer.
supposed to be splitting that 60-40 or something like that. The borough's supposed to get 40%, and the authority's supposed to have 60%, or vice versa. I think the authority gets 60, but I can't remember.
Okay.
So the bulk water fund, just a general comment, which is funded by the proceeds from untreated water sales to certain customers, Niagara Bottling, Milesburg Borough, namely, it has been historically used by the borough to fund large-scale capital improvements so that it avoids the need for tax increases or debt issuance. It's a good account to help to kind of, pay for some of those larger items, and so that was the application to the Parkview Zion traffic signal, because that was approximately a $225,000, $250,000 project. We were able to do that without having to incur debt or to put the burden back on taxpayers using bulk water revenue.
Okay. And then another question I had about, because I know that we have serious water leakage from pipes. It said something about old pipes leaking water, about 50% loss.
We have both wastewater and water leaks, and we've just gave permission, I guess, or voted to, the authority has voted to spend, I don't know, was it $15,000 or?
Yeah, it was $15,000.
$15,000 to hire a company that specifically comes to towns like ours, and they survey and find us the leaks, because we are losing a lot of water. And not only that, but we've seen an increase in wastewater being treated that we think is fresh water. So we're going to try, in this process of hiring this company, we hope to find some of those water leaks that are infiltrating into our wastewater system, causing our wastewater plant to overwork more than it should. So we thought it was a wise investment to hire this company to survey our water leaks throughout the borough.
So what is the method, do we know?
Of leak detection?
Yes.
They have different methods that they use. I don't exactly know what this firm is employing, whether they have some kind of diagnostic, either it's either kind of like a radar system that would be used to detect leaks, ultrasound technology, some kind of, that would be how they would go about tackling it.
Claudia, whenever water is under pressure in a pipe and there's a little hole, the water squirts out of the hole, and that makes noise. And so what they do is they attempt to track the noise. Now, we have to keep in mind that all the pipes in our system are interconnected. If you know what a buckyball is, one that looks like a model of a molecule where everything's connected.
Okay, yeah.
That's what our water system looks like. Think of it as a pipe going into that molecule that's all connected. So it is a process. A water system is an opportunity for a lot of leaks, and it can be somewhat challenging to find those leaks, but we got to do it. We, as Doug said, the board looked at it. The scope of the problem is something that we got to take care of, and we also have to, and as Doug correctly mentioned, we're now seeing it show up, appears to be showing up into what's going into our wastewater treatment plant. So we'll eventually have to do the same thing for the wastewater treatment plant to find out where that water is going into that system. So
I think it's an excellent and over.
Well, yeah, and the other thing that
excellent idea.
John didn't mention, but I will mention it as well, is even though we collect from Spring Benner Walker Joint Authority, we treat their waste, and they've had a decline in treatment, looking at our data flow, but we have seen an increase in Bellefonte, but we have no new customers. So we are
Yes.
not very happy about these leaks that are occurring. So we're going to attack them as best we know how, but it's going to cost us some money.
A good investment, perhaps.
We're hoping so.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? For the committee reports, I guess. Okay, we'll move on to current and old business. Bellefonte Borough Audit Report. Looking for a motion and a second to accept the 2025 Bellefonte Borough Audit Report as presented by the borough's independent auditors and authorize its receipt into the official record.
So moved, Tosti Basie.
Thank you.
Second, Dan.
Thank you, Barbara. Discussion?
We do have Mr. Schrock here with our auditing firm to present on some of the important components of the audit, if you'd like.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry.
Good evening.
As David said, my name is Chris Shyrock. I work at Young Oaks Brown & Company. We're the firm that performs the audit for the borough. Just want to start off by thanking Mayor and Council for giving our firm the opportunity to audit the borough, and also thanks to the borough staff for their cooperation and courtesies extended to us during the course of the audit. David told me that he did share the audit with you ahead of time, and there was a few questions. I'll get to those after I make my brief comments. Our audit report's 122 pages, so I'm just going to make some quick comments for everyone. I just wanted to say the first 3 pages of the audit is our auditor's report. We're happy to report the borough got an unmodified or clean opinion, which is the best possible opinion that could be given on the borough's financial statements. Page 19 is known as the statement of net position. It's on a full accrual basis, meaning all assets, long-term and short-term, and all liabilities, long-term and short-term of the borough are included on here. If you take your assets minus your liabilities, the borough's full accrual net position at the end of 2025 was almost $41 million. 15.9 is governmental activities, and almost 25 million is the business type, the water, the sewer, and the refuse. Of this $41 million, 7.3 is unrestricted, 27 million is invested in fixed assets, and the remaining is for restricted purposes. Next page is the statement of activities. We'll call it an income statement for business people. It shows a positive change in net position for the year of 1.1 million. 800,000 was governmental activities. 300,000 was related to the water, sewer, and refuse activities. The next page is page 21, the balance sheet of the governmental funds. This is modified accrual basis, so not all long-term assets and liabilities of the borough are on this report. So it presents the general fund, which showed a fund balance at the end of the year of almost $3 million, 2.9 is unassigned of that $2.9 million.
So can you point to me where that unassigned money is?
On the report?
Well, you mention it. Can you tell me where it is?
Where's the actual money at?
Yeah.
Well, if we turn to page 21, I mean, it's not just money. I mean, there's several assets of the general fund. There is cash of almost $3 million at the end of the year.
Where's that at?
In the bank accounts that fall under the general fund?
I didn't hear the question.
I asked where is that at?
Our cash in the general fund?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be, as Chris said, it would be a combination of checking accounts and sweep accounts, approved repository, accounts for the borough's funds. So we, those get commingled in some respects, and that it's not like we have the fund balance sitting in account A and then the, committed revenue reserves for the borough sitting in this account, but we have them accounted for. They're just, as far as where the money actually is, a majority of it would be in sweep accounts accruing interest.
Okay. And now, when we say general fund, that applies to what we call the general fund in our budget.
Correct.
Okay, so that's separate and from like this, the business activity.
Right, this is specific to the general fund.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Okay, next page is page 23. It's statement of revenues, expenses, and change in fund balance, again for the governmental funds on a modified accrual basis. The general fund had a positive change in net position of $158,000 for 2025. Pages 25 through 29 pertain to the business type activities. I just want to point out on page 27, the statement of revenues, expenses, and change in fund balance. The third line from the bottom, if you were following along, the water had a positive change in that position of $211,000. Sanitation had a negative change of $13,000, and the refuse collection had a positive change of $119,000. On the next page, pages 32 to 68 are notes to the financial statements, which give you a lot more detail what I'm talking about, which I'm not going to get into. The one page I did want to mention is page 69. It's the general fund budget versus actual for 2025. So whenever the budget was prepared by management, they anticipated using $228,000 of reserve funds in order to balance the budget. In actuality, as I just mentioned, without even using those reserves, the general fund had a positive change in fund balance of $158,000. So they budgeted using $228,000 of reserves. Actuality, they were $158,000 to the good without even using those reserves.
Which page are you on, sir?
It's page 69.
Okay. You're going faster than I can scroll.
I'm sorry, I was trying to be brief, but
You're the Energizer Bunny and I can't keep up. Oh,
so that's part of the, yeah.
okay. But that's 158 without use of any of the reserves.
Yeah, so if you look 5 lines up, under other financing sources, there's a budgetary reserve line.
All right?
So those first 2 columns of this report is the original and final budget. So they both showed using $228,000 to come to a zero change in net fund balance for the year. So if you look at the column on the far right, that is the actual results for 2025. And as you can see, no budget reserve was used, and the borough's general fund still resulted in a $158,000 positive net change in fund balance for the year.
Do those funds then roll over into reserves for the next year?
That'd be in the fund balance at the end of the year that I previously mentioned, yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, the story behind that is a lot of things, and could be things that were budgeted for in 2025 but weren't expent, so they were pushed into 2026, or perhaps even deferred longer than that. There's opportunities that we have throughout the year to beat our budgetary figures. We get better pricing. We budget high on the expenditure side and low on the revenue side for the purposes of conservative budgeting practices. So if our revenue outpaces what our projections are, you'll see some ground gained in projected deficit spending in that on the revenue side of things. Similarly, if we are able to reduce our budgeted expenditures across line items, that expense side will come down. So it's really a combination of better pricing on the expense side, better revenue in some of the centers realized on the revenue side, and also things that we just didn't get around to doing because of various other priorities may have caused those funds to not be spent in their budgeted year.
Okay. All right, so the remainder of our report is just some required information we have to disclose related to the various pensions of the borough and the OPEB plan, so I'm not going to cover those. It just required disclosures. It gives 10-year history on some information for it, which is a requirement to have in there.
It's good news.
Yeah, I mean.
They can't say that in the audit report, but it's good news.
Yeah.
All our pension plans are doing very well.
Right, yes, that's correct. They are, yes. There were a few questions that David shared with me earlier today, so I'll just go over those. The first one was, what's the difference between assigned, committed, and restricted funds, and what are non-spendable funds, and why do we have such things? All right, so non-spendable funds. This is a category, includes amounts that cannot be spent because they are either not a spendable form or are legally or contractually required to maintain intact. So the borough has numerous assets, cash, which we talked about, some receivables, and then one of the things they have is prepaid expenses. That's whenever, the borough pays for something in 2025, but they're not going to receive the benefit till 2026. So a good example of that would be health insurance. You pay the January health insurance bill in December, but you don't actually get the benefit of it till 2026. So anything that's a prepaid expense that you pay for in advance has to go into this non-spendable category. So that's what that is. Restricted are externally constrained by laws, regulations, or third parties. So if the borough were to get a grant and have that money sitting there, it's restricted for the purpose of the grant. So that's an example of a restricted fund balance. Committed fund balance are self-imposed constraints established by the government's highest decision-making authority. So if you as council say we have this fund balance sitting here, we're going to use it for X, Y, Z, that would go into the committed category. Assigned is very similar, but it's a step lower. You could give the borough manager the authority to assign some fund balances. So they're pretty similar. It's just who can make that commitment of the funds. And then unassigned are obviously ones you can do with what you need, daily operations, et cetera. The next question was, on the MD&A, there's a decrease in taxes when you actually increased your millage. So I did look into that. Going back to that page we were just talking about, page 69, you actually, for the general fund purposes, you collected more than you budgeted. So you did collect more in real estate taxes, but that tax number includes other taxes such as earned income tax, local services tax, real estate transfer taxes. So based on the amount of real estate transactions in a given year, you could have more or less of that funds coming in, and then the collection of those other taxes, just the timing of whenever the people who collect them for you remit them to you, they might not show up in a given year till the next year. So that's why that could fluctuate. And then the last thing I was asked was about the police investment policy. We were not aware that a policy was passed, so that's why that was in there. So we'll take it out. It stated that the police pension plan did not have a formal investment policy. We had to disclose if there's not a formal investment policy. So we were not aware that one was passed during 2025. So in future years, the report will not have that language in it.
It looked like there were a couple of examples throughout the report where maybe you weren't getting information from our pension advisor or actuary. Is that just a matter of they weren't responsive? Is there something that staff can do to, kind of broker that relationship a little bit?
I don't think there is. I mean, as far as the investment policy, they didn't tell us, we didn't ask. I mean, that's how that came about. I mean, some of those valuations that we get for, what your net pension asset or liability is, it takes some time for them to get it to us. I mean, but that's just the nature of the beast. I mean, Bellefonte's not alone in that, time.
There were a few places where the data point was just not provided. It just said not provided by actuary or not provided by. So that's what I was referring to. We could talk offline. That's fine.
Okay.
An example for that is on page 72.
On page what, I'm sorry?
72.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question. Why, since we participate in pension programs that, yeah, well, since we participate in pension programs that are you know, managed by others. We set up a contribution. We don't manage the investments or anything in those plans. Why do we seem to be almost auditing an outside entity, the pension plan provider.
I mean, they have audits done on their behalf,
Right.
and they have actuaries that come up with a net pension asset or liability. I mean, we have to look at their assumptions to see if they make sense to us. I mean, we don't go and audit those places. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of municipalities use PMRS, for instance, to, you know, provide those services. And they, like I said, they have independent auditors, they have independent actuaries. So, I mean, we look at the reputation of the actuaries, make sure, you know, they're trustworthy, have good standing, and that the assumptions they use, you know, discount rates, et cetera, are reasonable.
Okay. Yeah, it seems almost as though you're doing sort of an assessment of an outside entity.
I mean, we're required to have those numbers in your report, I mean, because they truly are assets or liabilities of the borough.
Right.
At the end of the day.
Okay. Okay. So if you're saying that if we're overfunded in one of the plans, then that ends up showing up as being an asset. Okay.
I mean, overfunding is based on their actuary assumption of what the future benefits are going to be. So, I mean, that can fluctuate from year to year based on investment return and everything else. So, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, at the end of the year, they're saying you're overfunded, and that is an asset of the borough.
Okay. But we'll never see that truly as a financial asset. That's more or less just an asset on paper.
You cannot spend it on anything else if that's what you're asking.
Right, right, right. I mean, it's the employee in question can retire with the knowledge that he's fully funded and he should have a secure pension from that point on. But yeah, as far as like being an asset or a liability for us, yeah, it's more or less just something on paper.
Yeah, but I mean, if you didn't have those funds invested and that person retired, then you'd have to raise taxes to pay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it is an asset of the borough. Just like I said, you can't use it for anything besides those purposes.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Other questions for Chris? Okay, well, offline, Chris, I'm on the water or the Bellefonte Authority, and we looked at the audit report that we received, and we were hoping that we could get you to our authority meeting in the month of August.
Okay.
We had some questions. So I don't know if anybody from the office has been in touch with you in regard to attending that meeting. We asked to have you at the last meeting, but you weren't available, I guess.
Yeah, Lori did mention that you do want us to come to a meeting, so yeah, if she can just tell us the date, we'll try to make sure someone.
It'll be this first Tuesday in August, 6 p.m. In this building.
So it's the 4th.
Well, wait, that's incorrect, because we were going to do what was it, a Thursday or?
Well, we
Well,
were
it was a
planning
5 p.m., yeah.
second work session
Yes.
to review the financials. So whether you wanted the auditor to report at the regular meeting or at that meeting I mean, I think Lori was going to plan for having the auditors attend that work session.
Yes,
and
yes, that's
Alyssa
true.
was going to work on aligning calendars.
Yes.
So that they could be there to maybe answer some of the other questions that even weren't necessarily audit related.
So, Chris, I gave you misinformation.
Okay.
We're going to have another work session regarding our authority finances. And we took a look at the auditor's report, and some questions arose from that report. And we were hoping that you would be there for our last financial work session, but we were told you were unavailable for that date. So I think it's a Tuesday, but Alyssa or David, somebody will reach out to you and get us a date.
Okay.
Because this is important to us to get this resolved.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm echoing your comments, Doug, because it's almost like the audit that we saw for the water and the sewer funds, everything came to zero.
Well, maybe, could I, maybe there is something that council would like to hear your reaction to. So the authority audit shows a $0 net position, which is by design. I'm not really the right guy to explain that. Maybe you could elaborate on what the relationship between the authority and the council is and why that shows a $0 net position for the borough.
Zero assets, $0, nothing.
Well, I mean,
How can that be?
There are some assets on the authority. I mean, there's some cash accounts, and there's a receivable from the borough. I mean, and there's the debt, the long-term debt of the authority. So, I mean, the way that was set up, I mean, these municipal authorities were established, you know, so that the borough wouldn't bear the burden of, you know, borrowing this money. It's under the authority's umbrella. But, I mean, the borough, using water and sewer funds, is paying down the debt and interest of the authority. And as that occurs, the debt goes down, and this receivable that's sitting there from the borough for that purpose also decreases. I mean, it's a presentation issue. I mean, all those amounts are what's in the columns on the borough's report because they're blended together. I mean, since the borough appoints the members of the authority, I mean, they have control per se, and so those amounts are reflected on the borough's report. So, I mean, you could just look at those pages I referenced in our report, pages 25 through 29. I mean, there's a column for the water fund, there's a column for the sanitation, and there's a column for refuse, which I don't think you're as concerned about, but all those amounts are there.
Okay. 25 to 20.
Can we move on now?
Yes.
We've been here for a long time.
That's all right. We want to make this long for you tonight. It's your last meeting, Randy. Chris, thank you very much.
No, thanks for having me. everyone.
Appreciate
Good
it
evening. Thank
very,
you.
very much. Let's move on. Oh, we need a vote to accept. Thanks, David.
No problem.
Can we do a roll call vote on this? Can we do a roll call on this?
Well, sure.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Brackbill,
Yes.
Ms. Cleaton, yes. Ms. Dan,
Yes.
Mr. Eaton,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. McKean,
Yes.
Ms. Tosti-Vasey,
Yes, with pleasure for having such a clear report this year.
and Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you. It's unanimous.
Thank you, Deb. Moving on, 2026 second quarter financial report. Motion and a second to accept and place on file the 2026 second quarter financial report for the period ending June 30th, 2026, as presented by Mr. David Perbolka, the Borough Manager.
I will make that motion and note that the Finance Committee requested this. So this is a product of the Finance Committee.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second, Randy. Comments?
It's quite helpful, thank you. Makes much clearer what's going on. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you want me to report or no?
Yeah.
Do you want me to do the report?
Yeah.
Still trying to get the flow of things here. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Eden, and members of the Finance Committee for your work in this as well. This is what we hope to get into a kind of a tradition of giving quarterly reports to Borough Council because of the way things were this year and transitioning in for the new manager and him figuring out where things were and how to do this. It took a little longer than normal. So this is a report on what essentially is the first two quarters. The data points do go a little bit into the month of July. That's the limitation of our accounting system. And so it's, for all intents and purposes, it's the first 6 months plus a little bit of July. Across all funds, bottom line, tried to make this as illustrative as I can. 2026 has been a good year so far. Across all of our funds, we've collected just over $7.1 million in revenue and spent just over $6.1 million. Again, that's all funds: general, water, sewer, refuse, street lights, fire department, fire equipment, parks, special projects fund, liquid fuels fund, EMS, capital projects, and bulk water. So there's a lot that's in those numbers. Hard to really say how any one fund, just by looking at that snapshot, is doing, so we need to drill a little bit further into that and see what those fund-by-fund snapshot looks like. So this is just kind of a zoom out histogram of where all of our funds are with respect to the percentage of their budget spent to date. As you could see, we're 6 months in. We're tracking at about 50% for our expenditures across most of our funds. So we're doing pretty good. We're staying right on track with our budgeted expenditures. Special project funds is certainly an outlier. You can see up here on the top of your screen at just 2%. That's because there are 2 grant-funded projects that are included in that, the Talleyrand Stage and the Big Spring Enhancement Project. Those are all special projects, funded projects, so we haven't expended any of those funds, really limited funds on both of those categories. Bulk water is running ahead of expense. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. And fire equipment is going pretty consistent. That's our largest, expended fund to date, but again, not tracking much out of what we would anticipate seeing. General fund bottom line, this is what I look at probably most throughout the year, is how revenue and expenditures are tracking, because this is our major fund across all borough departments, looking pretty solid with approximately $735,000 increase to our net position. It's really hard to read into this too much, just because the way our revenue is collected and the way our expenditures are made throughout the year. It doesn't really lend itself to being able to make meaningful conclusions mid-year about how we're tracking, except to say that things are looking pretty good and on par with how they've been in prior years. An example of why things are so skewed to the revenue side is because a majority of our real estate tax revenue gets collected in that first quarter of the year. You could see 93.7% of our remittance has been received in real estate tax, whereas expenditures can be spread out across that entirety of that 12 months. We still are collecting revenue across our other streams. I think I have a slide on that next. So how'd you like that for a transition? Here's across all of our kind of revenue collection, I'll call them cost centers or revenue centers. As I mentioned before, about 94% of our real estate tax has been received. Local services tax, which used to be occupational privilege tax, that's the $52 per year. That's tracking about 68%. Earned income tax and parking permits are all right where we'd expect them to be. The SRO reimbursement, that's school resource officer. It's a small budget item, but we do get money from Bellefonte School District for staffing police officer presence at their request in some of their schools. It's really just a matter of how the billing is cycled from the district, so this is not an indication that we're not going to meet revenue, but we will catch up with that later on this year. Real estate transfer tax, probably one of the more difficult ones to predict. That's a percentage that the borough receives from when property transfers or changes ownership. Because it's hard to predict what that market will look like, sometimes this number can be high or low. I think we're pretty well on par with what our expectations are for the year. So that's the revenue side of the house. Switching to expense pace by department. Again, at a glance, everything is tracking very well, right about where you'd expect to see midway through the year. We're anywhere from 23% on the low end to 118% on the high end when it comes to expense category. The outlier on the high end, as you see in the narrative in the margin, is the mayor expense category. It's a small departmental allocation, but this is not reflective of overspending in that account. It's a matter of there was a one single purchase, a water feature planned to be installed adjacent to the police department to honor the mayor's that have served Bellefonte Borough in our history. It was a project not funded by the borough. It was funded by private donations that the mayor solicited for purpose of this project, but it does have to show up as an expense line item because it's something that we administer, and therefore it shows up in that category, which is what threw that into a higher percentage of the budget than what you might otherwise expect to see. Otherwise, we're at 42.8%, tracking very well and just below that 50% ratio or level of expense where you'd be at 6 months into the year. Just touch briefly on water fund. There's a bit of a deficit in the water fund year to date that is almost exclusively attributed to the Valentine Hill water line replacement project. As we collect revenue and expenditures slow down, you'll see these numbers come a little bit more into focus and will be a little more balanced, if not hopefully in surplus by the end of the year. Notables on there, again, the Valentine Hill water line project, replacement project. It's approximately $500,000 that we've expended year to date, which is what is throwing that revenue to expenditure ratio off in the water fund. Legal expense, we're a little bit over. Percentage-wise, it looks like a lot. Raw dollars, it's only about $2,500 over budget. Another very difficult to predict category driven by need for legal counsel when it comes to renewal of contracts, negotiations, ongoing litigation, and any other unanticipated needs. SOAR fund looking pretty good, kind of illustrated here, 2.1 million in revenue collected to 1.6 million expended, approximately $500,000 increase in net position year to date. Debt service is more of a story about how these funds get recorded than it is about what's actually expended. We heard the auditor kind of talk about this a little bit with how things get recorded in the ledger, but to take that 6% and set it aside for a moment, what we've actually expended on debt service for the sewer side is on this slide. You could see we're at 54% of the budget. Year to date, we spent approximately $361,000 to the budget of about $664,000. The principal is the only thing you see in this 6% number is the interest paid. Principal does not get recorded in that budget to actual report where this data was drawn from. But I asked the finance director to give me those numbers so that I could plug them in here, and it didn't look like it was skewed in the budget itself. Talking just a little bit of a word of warning, we are planning some upgrades to improve some of the things we talked about this evening at the wastewater treatment plant. Those should true that might cause that budget surplus to narrow a bit. The refuse fund, nothing really to add to what this slide says. Looking pretty good, 122,000 plus in year-to-date net position. Everything is tracking right where we'd expect to see it, so good news there. Yeah, nothing notable, no significant variances. Other funds, we have a number of the small funds that we are custodian of or that we have management over: street lighting, fire, parks, liquid fuels, which is proceeds from tax that on gas, it's a gas tax revenue that the borough receives, can only be used for transportation purposes, has to be held aside from the rest of the funds so that it can be properly audited and accounted for. The rest of it is illustrated here, and I'll answer any questions you might have on those. Clearing pass-through accounts, really just demonstrated here so that it's a full picture. None of these are budget accounts by any measure. Some of them are just temporary holding accounts like payroll and First National Bank for utility payments. The health insurance surplus is for proceeds we receive from the Municipal Health Insurance Cooperative for dividends. And then fire police, we also act as the bookkeeper for our fire companies. So they're not budgeted in a traditional sense. They're not made part of the borough audit in a traditional sense, but they are monies that we hold. That's all I got to report. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them to the best of my ability. Got to qualify that.
Very well done, David. Nice presentation. Any questions for Dave?
No, just a comment. This was a pleasure to look at, and it was very easy to understand, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Claudia, I'll also echo that. It was very easy to understand. So we will be receiving this every 3 months now?
Every 3 months, correct, yeah.
Every 3 months.
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
great. That's excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. The year end might be sort of like a total, kind of like a final post-mortem, I think, or as John calls it. Yeah. And it would be unaudited, of course, but yeah.
Any other comments before we have a vote? Do you want a voice vote, or do you want to? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. I can't vote. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're up to new business. Consideration of opposition letters for House Bill 2186 and Senate Bill 1346, accessory dwelling units. Suggested motion is a motion and a second to authorize the Borough Council President to execute and transmit the proposed letters to Representative Carrie Benninghoff and Senator Chris Dush, expressing Bellefonte Borough Council's opposition to House Bill 2186 and Senate Bill 1346 regarding accessory dwelling units and sustainability, the form presented. So in your packet tonight, I think are both House bills and the Senate bill. And Joanne and the ad hoc committee did a great job of summarizing those two bills and the recommendation of the borough to not support the two bills. I'm going to ask Joanne to briefly go through her
Okay. But first, I'd like
presentation.
to make a motion to make this happen.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So do I have a motion and a second?
I make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it, Dan.
Thank you. Now discussion.
Okay.
Joanne.
Okay, the ordinance ad hoc committee, it is on. Okay,
Showing.
better?
Much better for us
okay.
that can't hear very well.
Well, the ordinance ad hoc committee met last week, and we looked at these two bills, and we had some significant concerns. Both bills are problematic. The House bill amends the consolidated statutes, while the Senate bill does the municipality bill. Both bills apply to all residential uses. The House bill is more substantial and is not just single-family detached homes. It also prohibits municipalities from requiring additional parking or stormwater controls beyond those required for primary residence. The stormwater preemption language would prevent the borough from requiring a stormwater site plan, even when an ADU or accessory dwelling unit triggers the impervious surface tipping point. So for example, just to give you a concrete example, this in the R2 district, there's supposed to be 50% of pervious land on the property. If you add another piece and you're already right at the 50%, it will take it over, and we wouldn't be able to stop that. And when you have impervious restrictions that are lifted, we could have severe stormwater issues that happen. We noted that there are very few residential properties in the borough that are large enough to accommodate an ADO while meeting permeability requirements, particularly in the R2 zones, whose minimum lot size is 7,500 square feet. And in addition, these bills would conflict with our existing short-term rentals restrictions, potentially forcing the borough to either allow short-term rentals in all residential districts or prohibit them entirely. And over time, oftentimes ADUs are generally set up as like what they're called mother-in-law apartments. But over time, they could more likely become rental units, which would increase our rental properties above the 51% tipping point that we've been concerned about for a very long time. So we would want to oppose that. Dave also did look at some legislation that's in New Jersey that he hasn't finished looking at yet, but it might be an appropriate way to handle this. The letters that you have in your packet this evening were designed as a general overview why we oppose it. It doesn't go into some of the things that this New Jersey law does, although we might be able to forward that at a later point.
Thank you, Joanne. And David did just inform me tonight that he contacted PSAB, I think it was today, and they are also not in support of these two bills. Just for our own information. Dave, what else? Do you have any other comments that you want to add to what Joanne has presented?
Just that the State Association, Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs, has been working with the bill sponsor in the House. Of the two bills, that's the one that's probably the closest to consideration. Has been working with bill sponsors to encourage them to pause this a bit, and then hopefully, that's all right, that was only 250 years old, but and what they're hearing is that they're open to considering amendments that would preserve local ability to regulate from a land use perspective. So I don't know whether that can be all that assuring at this point, but at least there's a dialogue open. Maybe this letter and other members will provide similar letters, will help the General Assembly realize that they need to take a little more strategic approach to this.
Thanks, David. Any other questions in regard to this letter or the letters we're considering to send on?
I don't have a question, but, let's go out with a bang. As far as this resolution, whatever it is, I think it's something that should be allowed. It's another case of overreach. Just like the short-term rentals, excuse me, I consider that an overreach by the borough. People buy homes. They should be able to do what they want to. You bring in one of these small mother-in-law homes, it's a perfect solution for people. The kids don't want you around, but they want you nearby. And so I think it's something that we could really benefit from anywhere. And whether or not it turns into a short-term rental, maybe there's some way to address that before it becomes a problem. But again, correct me, Randy, you always do, 1.8 miles in the borough. Is that right? Every time I say 2 miles, you would always speak up and correct me. But it's a very small area, and people should be able to bring their mothers in, their fathers in, and take care of them that way. Not everyone can afford a nursing home. It's going to be a real problem in the future, and I think we're just limiting options for families. People can't go out and buy a new house out of the borough to solve this problem. Not with the prices the way they are today. I think it's a great idea. And from what I've read about it, my friend was interested in something like that, and I was doing some research. People have to come up from Harrisburg to inspect this installation and make sure it is done by state standards. It's not a wheel it in and hook it up and go away. It's something more involved. But it's feasible. That's all.
I just, in response to that, I think they're over-regulating. I don't think that we're against the idea. It's against the over-regulating of what they're proposing, of what we already have in place that will permit what you're suggesting.
And I think we overregulate.
Any other comments?
Yes, I would like to say that I agree with Shauna in that it's a step towards trying to address housing issues. I also agree with the stance that the state, you know, with this House bill, that the state would overregulate or take over our ability to keep in place certain ordinances that are of benefit to the borough and the people that live in the borough. I mean, just the impervious percentage, you know, that could create flooding and some other issues. So it's a good idea. It's a good start, but it's not the final. It's not the final bill that needs to be passed.
Other comments? Okay, hearing none, I can do a roll call vote if you choose that.
Please, if you
Okay, roll call vote, please, Deb.
Mr. Brackbill?
Yes.
Ms. Cleaton? Yes. Ms. Dan?
Yes.
Mr. Eaton?
I'm going to go yes. Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Don't hit me.
Ms. McKean?
No.
Ms. Tosti-Vasey?
Yes.
And Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
It's 7-1, vote passes.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, council. So we're moving on to the next item. Let's see. That would be Shauna McKean, Borough Council resignation. I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the resignation that would be effective August 31st of 2026.
So moved with regret.
Second. Dan?
Thank you. Discussion. Is there what?
All allowed?
Sure.
Well, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you. Yeah. I really don't want Shauna to leave. I mean, we sat down here and, you know, say snarky comments about the rest of you. We're out here in the end. So, yeah. Don't look forward to this.
Well, I think she has 2 more meetings that we can have further discussion.
No, we were talking before the meeting and... Use your mic. Oh, probably not. We were talking before the meeting, and will there be a meeting scheduled for the end of the month of August?
There's only one meeting in August, so we'll have August 3rd, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this
Okay.
will be my last, because my grandson and I are going to Atlantic City. We finally worked out some dates that works for both of us before he goes back to school.
Okay. Well, yeah, you've had 4 years plus on this council, and you've been a valuable asset to the council, so I really do hate to see you leave. But I understand that you...
Well, thank you. I did have a lot of fun in the first term. Barb, Deb, Randy, when we went to the... Yeah, and even looking for a new borough manager, that was fun. Yeah, it was I learned a lot, and it was enlightening, but also very enjoyable. So thank you.
Any other comments?
So you're saying that this evening is your very last meeting? Well, then I'd like to give you a round of applause for the work that you have done over the last 4 years.
Thank you, but I spent a lot of that time arguing with you guys.
That's what we're all about.
A roll call vote, please, Ms. Cleaton.
Mr. Brackbill?
I'll start it off with a yes. Thanks for your time.
Ms. Cleaton, reluctantly, yes. Ms. Dan,
Yes.
Mr. Eaton,
I don't have any other option, yes.
You can say no.
Mr. Kelly. Ms. McKean,
Yes.
Ms. Tosti Vasey,
Unfortunately, I'm going to say yes. I'll miss you.
and Ms. Wilson.
Yes, and good luck with the future.
It's unanimous.
See, if I would have voted, it would have been a no, so it wouldn't have. If I would have voted, it would have been no, I wouldn't accept it. So it would not be unanimous. Thank you, Deb. Good, best wishes, Shauna, really. Okay, we'll move on. Public comment. This public comment period is for oral comments regarding items not listed on the meeting agenda. Speakers shall have to identify themselves by name and street, municipality if it's outside of the Borough of Bellefonte, and your comments are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any commenters in our audience tonight? Don't all get up at once. We have, I don't see any, so we'll move on. Council member comments for the good of the order. Mr. Eaton, we're going to start at your end tonight.
I'm just happy that we had a day of bright sunshine with no smoke and nice temperatures. So let's hope that we have that for the rest of the summer. So I'm done.
Shauna? Okay. Claudia?
I'd like to express my appreciation for several reports that were done very, very efficiently and easy to understand, particularly the financial one, and Joanne has a way of presenting information that is easy to read and understand, you know, the goals and what's going to happen and who's doing what. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Barbara?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
David, do you want to chime in?
Just that, given that we had another council resignation, just for the public's edification, we'll advertise that vacancy as well. We'll accept applications from August 1st through September 3rd for that vacancy. So look for that on our website if there's anybody interested in filling for Ms. McKean's unexpired term. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Zach? Okay, thank you. Joanne?
It's on now. It was a great event last year. I went to it, although the helicopter had to leave early. So it's 5 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, August 4th. The other one is that in the last 2 weeks or so, the railroad spur feasibility study has been completed and has been received by the borough. The Parks and Rec Committee will be discussing the study report at their meeting on Monday, August 24th at 5:30 p.m., and then we'll bring it to council. There's no rush because this is part of that capital improvement stuff that we may be doing some engineering stuff next year and then building, so we can do it whenever over the next 3 or 4 months.
Thank you, Joanne. Randy?
I have nothing.
Say goodbye to us.
I have nothing, he said. Okay. We're going to miss you, Randy. Best wishes to you. Debbie?
Yes, I have a question about the paving that was done on Bishop and High Street. It's completed and it looks great, but the crosswalk at the intersection of Bishop and Allegheny is not marked, and I don't think the turning arrows are marked either. So it was a little hazardous getting down here tonight. The stop bar isn't even there. And I didn't know if that was something PennDOT was supposed to do, or is that a borough responsibility because it's our crosswalk?
Would be a PennDOT. Would be a PennDOT responsibility. I can check in on when they're planning on coming back in and doing the crosswalk painting and line
Okay,
striping.
it looks like some of the painting was not completed. Other than that, it looks terrific and it rides terrific.
Unless we've agreed to do it for the district, it would normally be their obligation. So, and I know we had our guys were out painting, and I think they're done. So that's why I'm guessing it's a PennDOT responsibility, but
Okay.
I'll confirm.
All right, thank you.
Since you brought that up, I have stone in front of my yard. It keeps kicking out. They didn't do anything to come back and get it fixed, and that's been about a month.
We'll put that right on the Streets Committee agenda, won't we, Deb?
I have one other thing about the paving.
Time's up, sorry. You had your turn. Yes, Claudia.
About the paving, the crosswalk at Howard and North Wilson, the trucks came down and ran over that newly painted crosswalk, and now it has tar all over it, and it's not that as visible. So, and that was just because the trucks came down and turned in that street when they were working. Just something to look at.
Anything else, Deb? Thanks, Claudia. Adding to that, David, at the intersection of South Wilson, I guess it is, and Bishop Street, on Bishop Street, there should be a turning lane arrow that goes from Bishop to Wilson. I guess it would be North Wilson. No, I don't know. Is that right there? That's not South Wilson. I thought it split at High Street. Yeah, I don't know either. So if you want to add that to the list. Sure. I have nothing. So I'm looking.
Add one thing?
Yes.
Randy, if I send you a Facebook request, friend request, will you accept it so that I can keep you updated on when they actually break ground over on the walkway? I know you, I just know you have to know that.
Oh, I do have one other thing. Help me out on this, Dave. Yeah, you got it, honey. You're the best, Claudia. I think Lamb Street is to be paved from the Borough line onto to Allegheny Street, I believe, and that's coming up in the future. I'm pretty sure I talked to Matt about that at the authority meeting. It was redlined on one of your drawings, and I see the manhole covers are painted green, same as they were on Bishop Street. But I'm not sure when that schedule is. It is in desperate need of repaving.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Is it just at where the Dollar General store, we had that sinkhole? What's happening? They still got the last I looked, there were still the sawhorses up, and it didn't look like it was finished yet.
Yeah, it was successfully relined, so that's good news there. We did some, as part of keeping the cost down for the project, because this was done as an emergency repair, we did the restoration in-house. So our guys were out there doing the backfilling and the final paving, and they striped the parking stalls. They still have some work to do to tie in and finish up that inlet right there by the Dollar General, but they're mostly done with that project.
Just before, is there any other good of the, yes, John?
Since you guys on the Streets Committee are taking on a whole list of things here
Sure.
to do, the one thing I would sort of like to ask for is to take a look at adding some more traction material on the line painting. So that, they early in the morning with the dew and stuff, they can be a little treacherous on two wheels. So
I know Matt has experimented with that several times, and you all know that sometimes it gets awfully slippery. So it's a good suggestion. I think David will pass that along to Matt, and see where he is with that. Any other comments for the good of the order before I ask for an adjourn motion? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. We're adjourned.